Are dreams not cool? I mean,
Yeah,
seriously.
they're so cool. They're amazing. They blow my mind.
Welcome, dreamer.
Hi,
I'm delighted to have you with me today to work one of your dreams.
thank you for having me. Yeah.
So, tell us a couple of things about yourself.
Sure. I am a writer, first and foremost. I spend most of my time writing. I've been working on a book about how to do your own astrology for a few years. I'm getting closer to being finished with it. I'm trying to sell it. I do astrology for people on the weekends, and I'm a musician. I'm a creative person. I live in Southern California with my two cats, and the World Series is right down the street from my house this afternoon.
That is the coolest.
Yeah.
Dodgers, Yankees.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy on my street in about 4 hours.
You're very lucky. Let me
Yeah,
just say.
yeah. You're sad? Not your team isn't playing?
I, I'm a Cubs fan,
Oh,
so
yeah. They'll be back. They'll rally eventually.
they will. They will. All right. So let's just get right to this dream. Please tell me your dream.
Okay, so it starts out, I'm with a boy. It's like a boyfriend archetype, but it's nobody I actually know in real life. And we
Mhm.
are on our way to Europe. We're walking to the airport. And I have a ton of baggage, but he doesn't have anything. What he does have is a pillow from my couch, like a gold pillow. And it's a pillow that I have to move every morning when I sit on my couch to sit down and write in my journal. And I'm like, we can drop by the house and drop that off before we go to the airport. And he's like, no, I'll just throw it in this bush over here. And I'm like, okay, I have to move it every morning anyway, so it's always in the way. So then we're on our way to the airport and we're walking through all these people's backyards. We're not on a road, we're walking through people's backyards. It's very reminiscent of, there's an old movie with Burt Lancaster from the 60s called The Swimmer, where he decides he's gonna, have you ever seen it? He
Yeah.
decides he's gonna swim through all the pools in the backyards on his way home. It's very reminiscent of that. So we're walking through all these backyards and then I find a coin, and it's supposed to be a quarter, but it's really big. It's like probably the size of a small plate, like a salad plate, but it's supposed to be a quarter and has a symbol on it. It's the symbol for Saturn, which looks like this. It's like a little
Okay.
H kind of. It's supposed to be the cross of matter and the crescent of receptivity, but don't worry about that. So it's the symbol for Saturn on this coin. And I decide I'm going to throw it like a frisbee or like a discus. And I throw it and it gets into the next yard easily and effortlessly, even though it was kind of a heavy thing. And I feel like I did it right. And I'm really excited. And at this point, the boyfriend has kind of disappeared, but he's like, I understand that he's in the background somewhere. And I'm following a dog through all these backyards and I keep throwing something. I don't think it's the coin anymore, but I keep throwing something and the dog runs ahead of me and everything's going well. And then we're going through actual houses instead of just backyards. And I don't remember most of the houses, but I remember the last one that we end up in. And it's an empty house. Nobody's home. We're just traipsing through these people's houses and just observing. We're not stealing. We're just like looking at where these people live. And the
Mhm.
last house is full of baby stuff. Like they obviously have babies and little kids. There's like a swing and a port and play. Those you know what I'm talking about. And
Yeah.
there's nobody home, but I can tell that a little kid lives there. And I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm about to go to the next house, and I'm in the kitchen, and I hear the family like knocking at or unlocking the back door, and they're about to come inside, and they're going to discover me. And I'm really scared, even though I'm not doing anything wrong, because I'm trespassing on their house, even though I wasn't stealing or anything. And that's when I wake up.
Okay. There's a lot in that dream.
Yeah,
I am so excited.
me too.
All right.
Hear you make some sense out of it.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Okay. We're going to switch over here. I've got my notes right there, and we're going to get to work. First of all, the boyfriend.
Huh?
And this is the unknown. In other words, not related in any way to a waking life man.
Exactly.
Okay.
You dream of this like random boyfriend all the time, though, that doesn't actually exist.
What does he look like? What does he
I don't
seem
really
like?
remember any of that. I think he's tallish and he's smart and funny. I feel safe with him. I know that.
Okay.
Tall-ish, not too tall.
Any other ideas about him at
No,
all? Okay.
no.
All right. So you've seen some of my other videos. And
Mhm,
so there's this concept of the masculine aspect in a woman's personality
mhm,
that's called the animus.
mhm.
And that animus aspect often shows up as an unknown male figure. And depending on how he shows up, gives you a clue about your relationship with your own masculine side. And just to review real quick, the animus has to do with getting stuff done in the world, thinking logically, rationally, being able to decide on a goal, make a plan to achieve the goal, and then execute that plan, the energy to execute that plan.
Mhm.
And last but not least, the animus allows us to maintain or establish and maintain good boundaries with other people, or good boundaries maybe with our work, or just good boundaries for ourselves. So this shows up as a very friendly boyfriend.
Yeah.
And do you have a feeling like it's really a boyfriend, a kind of romantic feel about him?
Yeah, like he's gonna be a partner. He's a partner.
Partner, that's yeah. Whoops,
That might be
partner.
a better word than boyfriend.
Yeah, partner. So that's exactly what we want our animus to be for us, is
Mhm.
our partner. If we have too much of this energy, it shows up as an overbearing kind of man, or even a monster. And if we
Okay.
don't have enough of it, then he doesn't show up at all.
Mhm.
So to show up as a peer, a partner, is a really, I think, positive start to this dream, because you got this on board, you know. And by the way, are you smart and funny? I bet you are.
I can be.
Okay. So yeah, right? Because this is part of you. Th-
Yeah.
Okay, this is part of you. So excellent. He's there. Now, what's really interesting about the next part of the dream, number one, is y'all are going to Europe. Tell me about going to Europe.
That's been recurring in my dreams for like since the spring started. It's been a
Uh-huh.
recurring theme in my dreams. And I would love to go to Europe if I had the chance or the money to travel. It's probably not the first place I would go.
Huh?
And a recurring theme, especially France.
So, but what is, I mean, give me some words about when you think about Europe. What do
Um,
you think? What do you think about?
Probably some of my ancestry. Like, although it's Italian, I would love to go to Italy. I guess I do think about going to Italy a lot, just because
Hmm.
it's where my family's from. And you need a lot of money to go there well, and a lot of time. And it would be like an exotic, a fancy place, kind of majestic and magical castles in the old world. And am I making sense?
Yep.
Okay.
And the castles.
Hmm.
Um, I'm wondering in this dream if this is the part that's the key, and
Hmm.
that is the ancestors, the family history, or the family traits, or we inherit aspects of ourselves through the generations. Do you know when your family came from Italy?
Right about the turn of the 1900s.
Okay, right. When the huge waves of
Yeah.
immigrants came at
Yeah.
that time, my German ancestors came over right then. So yes, exactly so. And do you know anything else about them?
Not too much. I don't know too much about when they came when they came over? Not as much as I would like to know, no.
Okay. So I think that's a piece, is something about the, you know, the family. And it might be interesting for, I don't know if you've got some family members that are still living that could tell you more, or that you've got some documentation, but it might be interesting to learn a little bit more about this and what you've inherited from it.
Okay, for sure.
So, so that's a piece. That could be a piece. The other piece about this is when our dreams take us to a foreign country, especially one that we have never been to and have no idea about, you know, or have any plan to go to, or any other thing, we can turn that back inside and say, it's a foreign place, and it's a foreign place within me.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Okay.
a foreign place within me. It might be related to my ancestry.
Okay. That makes
So, yeah. So I'm just going to write the word foreign down here in another color so we can kind of hang on to that. Going to hang on to that.
I
All right.
love. Can I mention one more thing?
Of course.
Because we're going to get to Saturn in a second, and
We are.
Saturn's sort of counterpart is Jupiter. And
Yes.
Jupiter is the ruler of foreign travel and expanding your boundaries and all that kind of thing. So it
Oh
might
boy.
have something to do with that as well.
Oh, okay. All right. So,
So like just Jupiter, and Jupiter is foreign travel and going to unfamiliar places and expanding your boundaries.
I love that. Expanding boundaries. So this dream might be bringing that to your attention. And when we talk about expanding boundaries, naturally this happens when we travel, especially places we've never been before. But we also think about this internally,
Okay.
about expanding our way of thinking about something, you know, moving toward being closed-minded to being open-minded, which is a way of thinking about expanding our interior boundaries, something along those lines,
Okay.
if needed, right?
For
So,
sure.
so you can think about where that might need to happen and what area of your life that you might need some expansion, so to
Okay.
speak. Okay, so there's that. Okay, so now you're on the way to the airport to go to Europe, and you said something that absolutely caught my ear, and that was, I have a lot of baggage.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, we know that that is another way of talking about our emotional life, or our past,
Mhm.
or our, you know, something like that. I mean, you've heard people use that as an idiom,
Yeah,
uh, right?
for
And
sure.
so, okay, so again, you get to say anything you want to say or not, but I wonder if it's pointing toward, I have a lot of baggage.
I do. Yeah, no, I think it's literally trying to tell me I have a lot of emotional baggage. And that's another thing I dream about, having bags and unpacking and repacking bags constantly. And I have a lot of baggage from previous relationships. I haven't
Hmm.
been in a relationship in almost 10 years. So I've been unpacking and trying to deal with all that baggage for about 10 years. But in my dreams, it's still all there, or it's always like metaphorically, I'm always still bringing it around with me.
Okay. All right. I think we're on to something. What do you think, Dreamer?
For sure.
Okay. I have a lot of baggage. The boyfriend doesn't have any. But he does have one thing
That actually
that,
belongs to me.
yes, that belongs. He's got this one thing, and I think this item is so telling. It's a gold pillow.
Hmm.
Okay. Now that sounds like a fairy tale element, if you ask me. The
Well,
golden pillow.
it's literally the pillow from my golden couch. Like I have a gold colored couch. It's like right back there. And it's
Oh,
so, but I see what you're saying. It does.
Mhm.
It does sound like something from a fairy tale.
All right. So,
That's
and
fascinating.
right. So I'm going to put that in another color so you'll know that I said that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Um,
that's fascinating.
yeah. All right. However, you've got a real important association with that gold pillow. It's associated with you preparing to do what you do, right?
Mhm.
And so say that part again. This gold pillow, you have to do what before you can go to work?
When I wake up every morning, I write in a journal every morning. I write all my dreams down, and the pillow's always kind of in the way. There's too many pillows on my couch, and I always have to move that specific one every morning to make room for myself to sit down and start my work.
So you have to move it to work.
Hmm.
Okay. How's your work going, if I can ask?
Well, actually,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, especially like the morning writing goes really, really well.
Mhm.
I'm very proud of that habit, for lack of a
Oh, excellent. Excellent. And I think it's interesting that this animus or masculine figure is the one that is doing that.
for
He's the
sure.
one, right? He's
Yeah.
moving the pillow so you can do your work, which is exactly what the masculine is supposed to be doing. He's supposed to help you get stuff done in the world. And
Right.
when, right? And when you're in good relationship with that, then he serves you. That energy serves you. And um, it sounds like it's serving you well right
For
now.
sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's interesting. But there's a, a real interesting contrast between this business up here and this wonderful discipline that you've adopted. I don't know. You have any ideas about that at all?
I'm just kind of speechless that you made that connection. I was almost going to leave this whole part of the dream out because it seemed so just random, and it makes so much sense. No, please keep telling me what you think.
Well, in you've said that in many dreams you're still packing, unpacking, packing, unpacking. And then yet down here you're doing some good journaling work and some good writing. Now,
Mhm.
when you say you're a writer, are you writing for publication? Are you writing creatively? Are you
Um, I I went to school for creative writing, and that's my ultimate goal and what I always would assumed I would do. But I started writing this book about how to do your own astrology, and
oh, right, yes.
and I'm definitely going to try to sell it. Like that's my next big step in life, is trying to get
Okay.
the manuscript published. So
And that's going well, is
mhm,
it? Oh,
yeah,
good.
it's going really slow, and it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my whole life. But I believe in it, and I believe in it, and I'm proud of it. And the closer I get to being finished, the more proud of it I become.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so
Bravo,
much.
you.
Thank
So, is there anything then in this baggage back here that needs to be resolved in any kind of way in order to facilitate anything else, any of your work? Is there anything in this unresolved packing and unpacking of the baggage that would be of help to you? Because somehow it seems related.
I think so. I think there's an ex that I still haven't been able to forgive myself for getting involved with.
Mhm.
I think I've forgiven the guy as much as I'm ever going to be able to, but I don't think I've forgiven myself. But you know how you can understand something in your head, but you still don't quite get it in your heart. There's a little
Yes.
bit of that going on with a bad ex, and then there's a less bad ex that I'm still not over, and that's as much as I can say about that.
Okay.
My whole younger life, all I ever wanted was a fairy tale romance, right? Speaking of
Uh,
fairy tale, and it didn't work out well for me, obviously. And I'm not nearly as obsessed with it as I was for the most of my younger years, but it's
mhm.
like it's clearly still a big lack in my life. I
Okay.
subconsciously.
Okay. So here's a thing you can do. We won't do it right now because this is big work, but a thing you can do is, and you might have seen this in one of my other videos, is you take his name get a big old piece of paper like this, put his name at the top, and draw a T, and begin to list the attractive qualities and the negative qualities. If it was, we call him that, but when you first met him, there was some very attractive aspects.
Right.
Okay. And then as things went along, the negative aspects came to fore. Okay. So, but what we're looking here for, and then we cross out his name, and then you look at these attributes of these guys and decide which ones you have and which ones you need.
Okay. I gotcha.
Yeah. And often women, sound so sexist, but I'm going to go with it. Women often fall for a bad boy.
Right.
Because the bad boys, I defy you to find a teenage girl who has not fallen in love with the bad boy, because the bad boys, for all of their whatever else they've got going on, they come across as cocky, arrogant, and so what's so attractive about that is not being cocky and arrogant, but it is having confidence.
Mm-hmm.
There's a confidence thing that goes on with those bad boys. The idea that they can do stuff and get away with it, which often as women, we feel like we have to follow all the rules and do everything just right and all those things. Now, so when this bad guy shows up, he looks so sexy and good because he's carrying something we might need to balance ourselves. Okay. Now, even on the bad side, sometimes we need a teaspoon of that. We don't, right? We don't need to become something just god awful, but we sometimes need a teaspoon of whatever it is he's carrying for us.
Yeah,
And
I've definitely done a lot of work and realized some of the things that he showed me about myself that I'm proud of myself, and I'm grateful to him for that, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is probably some of the baggage that still needs some resolution, but those are just some ideas about how you can go about that. Sound good?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we're getting somewhere, I hope.
Yes, for sure.
Okay. And also this idea of the fairy tale romance is this bill of goods that we get sold as little girls, Disney princesses and whatnot. But here's the thing. Those fairy tales really and truly are full of archetypes that are speaking to an internal situation, but we literalize it and concretize it and turn it into an exterior situation. But really the handsome prince that comes and to that handsome prince aspect, we're supposed to be building inside of ourselves so we can be the sovereign of our own lives.
Yes.
All righty. Okay. Now, walking through the backyard. That is so interesting. And then later through the empty houses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's talk about the backyards. What you reckon? You got some ideas about that?
Probably the past, I would assume.
Ah, yes. The past.
Or
yes.
Something buried in the backyard, like shameful secrets.
Yes.
Those are my immediate associations. But also backyards are nice places to have and to hang out in.
Yes.
Family or someone to hang, or even alone or with your pets on a nice summer day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like if you had a backyard that you did entertain people back there.
And entertain, yes.
Barbecue.
Oh, yes. Yes to everything. Our backyards are different from our front yards.
Mm-hmm.
Our backyards are, if we want to think about it in this way, our front yards have to do with our persona or how we project to the world.
Yes.
right? How we landscape the front yard, how we decorate for Christmas or Halloween,
You show
or
everybody.
yeah, that's what you show everybody. In the backyard, though, speaks to something, I think, internal or hidden, not hidden, well, yeah, hidden, but not open to everything and not open to the world. It's more of an inner situation, or even our unconscious, whereas the front yard might speak to consciousness,
Yeah.
and the backyard. But that fits with this,
Okay.
because everything that's ever happened to us, all of our experiences, plus the emotions that went with those experiences, are in our unconscious. They've left at least a mark on us that is often in the unconscious. And so to roam through the backyards may be exactly this, to roam through the past, which is in memory, in the unconscious.
Wow.
Right? So, yeah. So like I said, our front yards were shown to the world, but our backyards were not shown to the world. They're more intimate.
People have to
They're,
go back there.
yeah, yeah. So here you go, going through the backyards, and it reminds you of a particular movie, The Swimmer. Tell me your associations with that movie.
Well, in all honesty, I went back and watched it just a couple nights ago, and I
Yeah.
hadn't remembered it as well. I remembered the premise that he was going to swim through all the backyards, but I didn't remember how dark it actually is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, spoiler alert, he's he's like this handsome athletic man that everybody loves, but by the end of the movie you realize he's lost everything, and he's just like lost everything he dreamed about, and he doesn't even have his fancy house anymore. He gets back to his house and it's a storm and the house is all boarded up and the windows are broken and his family is gone. So I didn't remember any of that when I initially wrote that that's what the movie was about, but I figured that is what I mean, because my subconscious probably does totally remember the movie, right?
Yes, absolutely. Now, here's an interesting idea about this. Going back to the idea of an animus figure, especially a dark animus figure, that is not just going through the people's backyards, but going into their pools, which again is indicative of the unconscious, going underwater.
Totally.
Going underwater. And so I don't know, to keep an eye on that sort of dark aspect a little bit, so that even as you are looking at your own past and the work you feel like you might need to do with this, to not get lost in it, maybe just to, right, just to remember that this is deep work. It is deep work, and to just be aware of that. Now,
It's
at this
right now, if anybody wants to watch it, The Swimmer.
The Swimmer. Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
It's a really cool movie.
So the next thing is the coin, right? The big coin. Okay. Again, this has got a real fairy tale element to it. The coin. And it's oversized. And it's gold. Is that right?
No, I don't remember it was a quarter, so it must have been
It was
silver.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. In my dream. So it was supposed to be a quarter. Okay. But it was oversized.
It was like the size of a salad plate.
The idea of the magic coin in fairy tales, or finding the treasure in fairy tales, that's what it just sort of had, that notion to me as you were telling the dream, especially when it has the symbol of Saturn on it. But before we get to that, I want to say something about quarter. In our dreams, there are three things to sort of start looking for, and this symbol has two of the three things, and maybe 3 of the 3 things. And the 3 things to look for are anything that is a circle or any allusion to a center,
Okay.
and any allusion to the number 4
Huh.
or the quaternity.
Wow. Or the quaternity? Is that what you call
Uh-huh.
it? Okay.
A quaternity is that
Yeah.
which is 4
Gotcha.
against a trinity, which is 3, right?
Yeah.
These 3 elements all point to a wholeness, and they all point to also the idea that there is a source that is making these dreams for us. Our dreams we don't generate the dreams from our ego, right? Our dreams are shown to our ego. Well, who is showing us this stuff, for us to become conscious of? Well, so there's a source, and the circle, the center, and the quaternity are like that source, and whatever you want to call it, a higher power, a deity, a divinity, a transcendent function, whatever you would like to name that, peeks out from behind the curtain and shows itself by this. If you look almost in any dream, you will find one of those 3 elements or
Wow.
some piece of it.
Wow.
And so here's your coin, which is round. Here is a reference to quaternity. It takes 4 quarters to make a dollar, or 4 quarters to make a whole,
Yeah.
if we want to put it that way.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know where the symbol is, but if the symbol's in the middle of that thing, then we've got a center
That was
also.
right in the middle, just like that.
Huh?
It was
What
right.
now?
Yeah.
It's just right in the middle. Okay. All right. Okay. Now, so I can't overemphasize how important I think this particular symbol is.
Okay.
uh,
For sure.
on every level. But let's talk a little bit about the fact that it's a coin, and what does that mean to you in terms of, I don't know, money or anything? You tell me.
I kind of I'm not superstitious isn't the right word, but I guess it is. I consider certain quarters lucky, like ever since they have the states on the back of them. So if I get
Oh,
a state that I really like I love to find a Tennessee quarter. I used to collect them for a long time. Or just if I find quarters from places that I am fond of, I'm happy about that. And not so happy if I find quarters from places I'm not so fond of. I don't pay attention to them nearly as much as I used to. And quarters have been really hard to come by since the pandemic, Oh, I need quarters to do my laundry. And it's always big pain to try to find a place that'll give me quarters ever since the pandemic. You can't just get them from the grocery store anymore. So I have to drive all the way to my bank, which is kind of far away because I'm in Los
oh,
Angeles. It's not far away, but it's like that's going to be like an hour long errand
yeah,
to get quarters.
a big extra step. See, I knew this had more to it, but I love this idea of finding the lucky state quarters, especially Tennessee.
I love the Tennessee quarter. Next time you see one, it's got guitars on it, and it's a very cool.
Oh, right. For Nashville, sure. Nashville and Memphis, sure. Yeah. Okay. In the dream, then, boy, do you find a lucky quarter. Dead gum, right? This is like, and when we have an exaggerated something or other in a dream, like something that's oversized or something that's a super bright color, or then the dream is really calling our attention to this. It's like, look at this. Look at this. Pay attention. This is important. And it's these kinds of elements that cement the dream in our memory.
Yeah.
When we're dreaming about more ordinary things, those dreams are a little easier to forget. But when we have oversized quarters with special symbols on them, that's harder to forget. one last thing. Quarters that are hard to find, that you have to go to the bank. I'm just thinking in terms of the word valuable, that that this is pointing to something valuable,
Oh, for sure.
you know.
I always feel really well fortified when I have a couple rolls of quarters. I'm like, I'm not going to have to go, I feel good. Like
Right.
all I need to get my laundry done for a few weeks. It's,
Excellent.
it's definitely,
Yeah.
I enjoy having a lot of quarters in my life and
Uh,
knowing.
and here's this very special one, very special quarter. Okay. Do you mind then showing me that symbol again?
So it looks
Okay.
like a lowercase h, but see how there's a cross in it? The cross is,
Yes.
and then you want to do like, this is like a moon, like a crescent moon.
Oh, right.
There you go. Perfect. Saturn.
Okay. Okay. Now, you are an astrologer.
Hmm.
So we may need to give this its own sheet, its own page.
Might.
But tell us what this means when you see this in your work or for yourself. Tell us what this means.
Saturn is the archetype of foundation. You need Saturn to get anything done, but it's also kind of known as a hard ass. Like he's kind of like the lessons will repeat as necessary. It's like a father figure, like a very demanding father that's just going to punish you until you get it right. And Saturn has
Oh,
a really bad reputation for being a malefic planet, but
uh-huh.
also like people are starting to hear about astrology more and more with the internet, right? And the Saturn
Right.
return is a big feared moment in life. It happens right around the age of 30. You get your Saturn return. And so that's what I typically am talking to people that come to see me for astrology. They want to know about their Saturn return. They're usually around that age. And I always
Hmm.
tell them that how Saturn is kind of a hard ass, but also kind of a badass, and that you need Saturn to get anything done at all. And it gets such a bad reputation, but he's actually like, you need Saturn to be authentic, and you need Saturn to be stable, and you need to work hard before you play hard, kind of thing. And that your Saturn return is like a graduation to your adult life. Is that enough?
Yes. And so what I'm thinking about that is, oh, father figure.
Mm-hmm.
That I heard that in there.
Yeah.
So this energy as represented by Saturn is calling us into, if I'm reading this right, calling us into adulthood,
Mm-hmm.
into accepting the responsibilities of adulthood.
Yeah, it's Saturn. Responsibility is a huge word for Saturn, for sure.
Okay. 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 So I said that, and adulthood, and I've heard about this Saturn return period around late 20s, 30. Yeah. Yeah. So what may make this show up for you now in this
Well,
big old coin?
um, I'm having a Saturn square Saturn, which is Saturn. All of the any cycle from any
Mm.
planet happens in four parts. What did you call it? A quadricity?
A quaternity.
Quaternity. So
What?
there's
What?
four parts to it. So there's the conjunction, and then the square, and then the opposition, and then the other square. And I'm having the second of the two squares. So you have another Saturn return in your late 50s, right? So I'm
Oh,
before that. So I'm having my Saturn square Saturn transit is happening in my life. I hope I
oh,
make it so like astrology can sound like another language I know. I don't want to complicate things too much, but it is another four-part thing, and I'm on part three of four parts.
yes. And so now we're looking for the last quarter.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
Are dreams not cool? I mean,
Yeah,
seriously.
they're so cool. They're amazing. They blow my mind. This is so cool. This is amazing.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And so I'm wondering now if part of this phase of your life that you're really and truly being called to this business here.
Yeah, 100%. It's like I feel like I failed my first graduation to adulthood, and now I'm And I do often lament being a 50-year-old teenager. Although I don't actually lament it. I like who I am.
I
I'm
was going to say,
yeah,
I kind of like that. Okay. So this is the coolest. All right. Now, one thing though that I kind of know about Saturn also is, and you're the expert, so you get to correct me about this, is that a Saturn time or a Saturn room is a place that somebody goes to go inward, or to have that inside, do that inner work. And it sometimes is calling us into a solitary retreat time in order to do our inner work, if you will. That's, that there was a time, I think it was the Romans would build what they called a Saturn room in the house, where when somebody was completely out of sorts and needed to get themselves back together, they were in a terrible mood, or just un couldn't live with them, that they would go to the Saturn room and kind of
I've never
straighten
heard
them.
of that, but that's amazing. I have to
Yeah,
look that up. That's so cool.
yeah, double check that. I mean, don't take my word for it. But the other thing that I know about Saturn is that again, in Roman times, that there was a celebration around the time of the winter solstice
Yeah,
called Saturnalia.
yeah.
And the shocking thing about that is that so many of the practices around Saturnalia are very much echoed in our Christmas celebrations now.
Mm.
Gift giving, for instance, a whole week of not working, not tending to business, partying, carrying on, all that sort of thing around the winter solstice, and it was called Saturnalia. And it's kind of another term for partying probably too hard a little bit. So
Yeah.
those are the two things I know about Saturn.
No, I love the Saturnalia reference, and it is cornucopias, I believe, are also are associated with Saturn, because it's like you have to work really hard, but then you reap the rewards from working.
Warts. Okay.
You work hard and then you get to play hard. Saturn is definitely associated with work and also the reward from it. I guess I just said that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. He's associated with, so
Hard.
let's write that big here. So in your dream, you're getting the big sign to do
Yeah.
this work, Okay.
I think it might be a lot of the work that I've been doing on the book, which is also like I've been working on the book for 7 years, which is how long a quarter lasts in a Saturn cycle. Like,
No.
so
Okay.
I think, and because, well, you'll get to the next part when I throw it like a discus.
Yeah. So we're going to just make that notation. It's the book,
I think,
certainly. But I also think it may have to do with this inner work that you're doing.
mhm.
So I'm just going to insert that right here. Both. It's a both and. There's not an either or here. It's a both and.
Different levels.
Yes. Okay. Let's get to throwing the thing and the dog. Do you have your own dog?
I have cats. I don't have a dog. I haven't had a dog since I was very young.
Oh, okay. All right. So you're throwing the thing like a discus. Is that right? Okay. Let me switch over here. Okay. So throwing the coin with a discus. Okay. What's your idea about that?
I have no idea. That's a really weird one. All I know is that was what I decided to do with it when I found it. And I do remember vividly, like, I did it right. And I was so proud of myself because I got it right.
When you throw it, you're throwing it into the next backyard, Okay. And then the dog is chasing it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it was like a little white dog, like, you know, the Rider Waite tarot card deck.
Yeah.
The little white dog that's with the Fool. It was
Cool.
that
Yeah.
white dog.
So he's associated with the Fool.
Mhm.
And okay, so you have cats and you
Mhm.
haven't had a dog since you were a child, but what do you think about dogs?
I love them. I love all the dogs. Um, I love them, and I would have one if I could. I'm just not.
Mhm.
It's. I'm not responsible enough to have a dog. They take so much work, and
Okay. Okay. Do you have any sense of what else a dog might represent for you?
I associate all animals with angels, with the angelic realm. I think that they're such a huge gift that we have in life. They're one of the best parts of life. All pets, you know, and
Yes.
I just think that they're they're too good for us a lot of the time, and we're so
Yes.
to have them, and they're little companions, and they give us unconditional love. Cats and dogs.
Yes. They are like little angels.
Mhm.
And they do offer us this unconditional love. And no, we don't deserve them.
There's I We're so lucky to have them. They're such one of the very best parts of life is our
It-
pets.
okay. Now, I'm going to also offer you a few other ideas around this,
Ooh.
and you get to pick and choose which ones you take. Our our little dogs and pets and our cats and any animal for that matter that shows up in our dream often are hinting to us about our own instinctive aspects,
Okay.
our animal instincts, if you will. So at least in some way, and I'll put this in a different color so you know it came from me. So our instinctual side. So
Mhm.
in thinking about this dream, this dog, you throw the coin, or you throw the coin in the next jar and the little dog goes after it, and then you throw it again and the little dog goes after it. And there's a hint here of following one's instincts.
Okay. Oh wow. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. Okay. But even better than that with these dogs, especially dogs, because dogs in myth and legend around the world and through time are guardians and guides to the underworld.
Mhm.
They serve the function of being what is called a this great word, a psychopomp.
That is a great word. Is
And
that
huh?
what that meant? Amazing.
Yeah, psychopomp is that uh, a guide to the underworld.
Wow. That's
And yeah, and dogs are that. If you think about in Greek mythology, the three-headed dog that guards the underworld,
yeah.
Cerberus.
Yeah.
If you think about, yeah, if you think about the Egyptian god Anubis, he's the jackal-headed god. He's jackals or dogs.
Yeah.
He's the god of mummification and the funeral rites.
Amazing.
And so they're associated with the underworld. They're associated with that. But you can substitute the word unconscious
Okay.
for the underworld, you
Totally.
know. And there are more examples. You can look up more examples of that being true around the world. It really is an archetype.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so if we in our earlier discussion talked about going through the backyards as going through memory, going through the unconscious, going through the inner aspects, here's your little psychopomp leading you along the way
Mhm.
through the backyards, through the unconscious. And here he is. I think the association with this card is absolutely amazing. What do you know about that card?
It's just stepping blindly into something you have no idea how it's going to go, and you're just going into it regardless. You're stepping off the cliff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and there's something about the Fool that has an innocence about it, that's got, as you say, stepping into the unknown. It's the card in the tarot deck that is numbered. It's among the major arcana, it's the 0 card.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
so it's the beginning. It's a
Mhm.
beginning.
But there's also the association of playing a fool or acting like a fool.
Right.
And I think, especially going back to that baggage part, that I'm terrified of ever playing the fool ever again.
I get that. But you know what happens? We're a fool for love, aren't we?
Yes, ma'am. Totally.
Okay. All right, here we go. How we doing so far?
Good.
Great. All right.
Amazing.
Now, oh, right, we get to the house. We get to the house now. We're moving out of the backyard, but we get to the house.
Mhm.
Ooh, this part was yummy. All right. Anything you want to say about the house?
It was just a really nondescript suburban house. The only thing I remember is that there was the kids' stuff everywhere,
Okay.
baby stuff. And so I taught little kids music for a really long time, and I nannied
Huh.
quite a bit.
Ah, okay.
I don't have kids of my own, but I'm pretty used to being around houses with full of children,
Mm-hmm.
especially young kids. The kids I taught were the average age was 1. They were with their family. It was like a sing along kind of class. But that was a big
Oh,
part of my life. I was that was one of the things I was best at in my life, was teaching the music.
that is so cool and so important. So the dream in this regard is sort of pulling you back to remember this
Mhm.
time of life,
Mhm.
and what you felt you were best at doing this. And it doesn't necessarily point to you need to go back and do this again, but it does point to some kind of the feeling of it,
Right,
you know, the feeling of this is what I do well.
right.
And
Something
I
I had
make,
success at.
yes, success. It has success in it. So there's that. Also, I would also add to this though, that the house itself is also an aspect of the unconscious.
Mhm.
Okay, so our houses are often a stand-in for the psyche itself. And when we come across a strange house or an unknown room inside of a house we're familiar with, and for instance, I once dreamed of my grandmother's home, which was a, kind of 1940s bungalow, one story, still my favorite house in the whole world. But I once dreamed that it had a whole second story to it
Oh,
that was
wow.
not yet right. That was not in true in waking life. And so to go into a house that you're unfamiliar with, or to go into a room that you didn't know was there, these are places within your own psyche
Mhm.
that are opening up, being explored, being coming to consciousness, a
Okay.
place in your own psyche coming to consciousness. In addition to this reference here, which was so positive, this is so positive. In addition to that reference, though, any reference to children, babies, is a reference to our own potential,
Oh.
you
Oh,
know?
yeah. I never put that, I never connected that to before.
Yes, when we dream of babies or we dream of children, whether it's our own children, somebody else's children, or unknown children, it is pointing to our own potential that's
Wow.
coming into being, that is being developed, because children are developing humans.
Mhm.
And so this is a part of ourselves that is in development. And
Wow.
so, right? So
Yeah.
here's a place in psyche that's got lots of potential in
Okay.
it, and coming to consciousness of this. And this makes sense based on what you told me about your Saturn movement, that
Mm-hmm.
you're in the second turn. And
Yeah.
so now you're going to enter the last fourth quarter, if you will. And what is that going to look like? That's where all the potential is. That what is that going to, right? And certainly the
Having had
book,
dreams about babies lately too. And I thought that it was because I was like birthing my book for that.
yes, yes,
I
the book
associated
is a,
with that, but I I didn't associate it with the potential, and that's gigantic too.
and the book is developing.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
a, right, it, like you
Yeah.
said, it's the baby that's being born right now,
Mhm.
and you'll watch it grow. And then when you finish though that project, you've got, there's more.
There's so many more. There's so
Right,
many
there's,
project planned. Amazing.
yeah. So but so the next thing that happens though is, here's the family, they're coming back. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. And the boyfriend was still there. He was like not in the picture anymore, but he was in the house somewhere behind me. I
Okay.
and yeah, and the family's coming home, and I hear the key in the lock, and I look up and they're at the back door, and I'm terrified and I just freeze, and that's when I wake up.
So, the fact that you sense that the boyfriend is there continues to indicate possibly that that masculine energy that you need for all of this to come into being is still there in service to you. It's not front and center. It's
Mhm.
it's where it's supposed to be.
Okay.
It's there for you to access when you need it. So
Okay.
that is very good news. Now, this feeling though of you're kind of trespassing,
Uh-huh.
but and the feeling of fear around it. So can we kind of talk about that?
I mean, I don't know how else to. I was
Um,
embarrassed and scared
uh-huh.
of getting in trouble, and but most more embarrassed than anything else probably, and just wanting to like, I just didn't want them to see me, but there was no escaping being seen.
Okay. So here's a way to think about this. A way. You're already well on your way. You're gonna be seen if that book gets published.
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness. Yes.
Also, whenever new things come into consciousness, no matter what they are, whether it's something that you just realize about yourself, or something about your work, something about the publishing of this book, there is the ego has feels fear.
Mhm.
And there's a really good reason for that, because ego hates change.
Mhm.
And if something comes into consciousness, change will happen. When this book gets published, change will happen.
Mhm. 1,000%.
Right? Change will happen. And so there's a kind of an existential dread, if you will, around such things. The ego is very frequently fearful, and it in dreams it sometimes appears as death. It sometimes appears that a fear of being killed, or seeing something being killed. But
Yeah.
all death in dreams equals change. Just like, right, the death card in tarot
Yeah,
is
totally.
is is pointing to change. Well, same thing in dreams. Death in dreams equals change. And there's some anxiety, or about this. But here's the deal. We're
Yeah.
gonna change.
Yeah.
Things are gonna change. I mean, if we are in any way in touch with our inner processes, and if we are in any way in touch with that which is pulling us into that which we are meant to be, our teleos, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
there's no escape from that. We're gonna become who we're meant to be, no matter what,
Totally.
right?
Totally. 100%.
Right? No matter what lessons we have to learn along the way. I'm just a strong believer that nothing's wasted, not
Oh,
even those ex-boyfriends.
100%.
Yeah. So here's my suggestion around this. And I'm jumping the gun just a little bit, because I ask folks how they're going to honor their dream at the end of the dream. But here's my suggestion around honoring your dream. So at the point that dream ends, that you're waking up, that key is in the door, that family's about to walk in the door, and you wake up with this. My suggestion is that you write what happens next. In other words, if you've written this dream down as it occurred, and that's the stopping point, chapter 2, here's what happened next.
I love
And
that.
you get to pick it. You get to make that up. You get to say, okay, how do I respond in this? What happens next? I do this, they do that. Whatever it is, that's what you get to do. And just see where it takes you in imagination.
Okay. I love
How
that.
does that sound?
Yeah, I already have a funny idea. That's amazing. My mind is blown.
Okay. All right. So you think we got somewhere?
Totally. Absolutely.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. How else might you honor this dream besides that suggestion I gave you?
There was the talk about looking into Italy and ancestry stuff.
Yes.
Oh, I don't know. This is a new thing that I've only heard of from watching your podcast, the Honoring the Dream, but I'm really into it. It's such a good idea. Could do something with coins, but I'm not sure what. Health.
Cool. Do something with coins. I love that idea. Do you have an altar?
I'm gonna make one for Day of the Dead next week.
Okay. Do you where are your found quarters?
I have various like sacred places throughout the house that I could use.
Do you keep your lucky quarters?
I used to, and then I had to spend them all on laundry. But yeah, I had a little jar, a little vase that I would keep them in.
So, offer if you've got a symbolic quarter handy that you don't need for the laundry, offer it on one of your altars.
Okay.
So I keep an altar here at the office. I have 2 altars at home with all of my dream symbols, but whenever I find coins on the ground, just found money, pennies, any coins, I always give them to the altar, to put them on the altar.
Love that.
Just as an,
Yeah.
heaven gave me this penny and I'm giving it back on the altar, sort of idea. Yeah.
That's I love that.
And so that's an idea for your coins. I'll tell you a real super quick story. So I've got this friend, and she believes that her uncle, who is deceased, sends her pennies.
Oh.
So whenever she finds a penny, she is convinced it's the uncle that's communicating with her again.
Yeah.
And what's very interesting about that is I've never been anywhere with that woman. We have never been out to eat. We've never been to a show in which she hasn't found at least one.
Amazing.
She's finding pennies because she's looking for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So keep your eyes peeled for those quarters, right?
For sure.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I probably need to honor Saturn somehow.
Saturn, oh yes.
Be like front and center of this dream, which is so interesting because Saturn is not a fairy tale planet, and the rest of it was also fairy tale-ish, and Saturn is hard reality.
I'm just wondering out loud what the rituals were in ancient times.
Yeah.
Around this god.
I'm not sure. I need to research that too. The only thing I would know would be Saturnalia.
Yeah.
Party.
Or taking some Saturn time, somehow to honor Saturn. I don't know. That might be interesting to research.
Sure.
What were the rituals for that time of year? What were, or because that time of year is coming up but fast.
Oh, yes, it is.
So that's an idea. But I think, yes, all of these are great ways to honor the dream.
For sure.
How do you feel about the work today?
I'm blown away. I'm so grateful that you met with me. I thought it was going to be great, but it was like way better than I was even expecting. So like 5 times better.
Thank you for offering this wonderful dream to our folks. And it was terrific. It gave me a lot of energy, if you couldn't tell. So
Thank you, Karen.
thanks. Thank you.
Have a beautiful rest of it. It's almost the weekend. Have a great weekend.